Hey Steve, I'm making this video on how to do that chicken the right way. So I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees. I have my pan heating up with some oil in it. I have some mushrooms over here that are cut, ready to go. And I have the pan to saute the mushrooms in a little later. So right now we're gonna start with the chicken. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna put it in here, and I did mention I have the chicken seasoned with some salt, some pepper, and some poultry seasoning. It doesn't matter, you can season it with anything you like. And I'm going to lightly dust this with flour. My pan should be, let's see, pan needs a minute or so. And we're good. I'm going to, well, that should be a little hotter, but it's okay. It'll get hot. So I'm gonna let this brown. I gotta touch more oil. And I'm using extra virgin olive oil, but you can use any kind of oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. It doesn't matter. So I will be back shortly. Okay, Steve. So I have browned the chicken a little bit on the first side, and I'm now browning it on the second side. It's not real brown. It's not dark brown. It's got a little coating on it. It probably could be a little bit browner, but it is what it is. It's going to be fine. I flipped them. I'm going to kind of show you what it looks like on the second side. Here you go. So you're looking for kind of that color. This color over here is probably ideal, but you don't want to overdo it either because we don't want to cook the chicken too much. So I'm going to say that was around 3-4 minutes each side. Then I'm going to take the chicken out of the pan and set it aside, okay? I have the chicken set aside, and I have my pan is empty, and you can see there's all kind of brown bits and stuff left in there. That's all good stuff. That's flavor. We want that. So I'm going to turn my heat back on to about medium-high, and I'm going to throw in some, I already chopped up some onions here. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. If you don't have any, don't worry about it. I'm going to let these onions go for a couple minutes. Just until they start to get a little bit soft. Okay, and as soon as they start to get a little bit soft, I'm going to throw in a fair amount of garlic, and then I'm going to throw in some seasoning, and then you'll see in just a minute. So let me let these onions get soft. I'll be right back after this. Okay, Steve, the onions have been cooking for a couple minutes. They're starting to get soft. Now I'm going to throw in some minced garlic, and it doesn't have to be this minced garlic. It can be, you can mince your own garlic. You can use this minced garlic. You could, if you don't have any garlic, you could use garlic powder. You know, but what I don't want to do is burn the garlic. So I want to make sure my heat's on. I'm going to say kind of low. So I'm going to let this slow cook for a little bit, just a couple minutes. But absolutely do not burn the garlic. Okay? Okay, Steve, about a minute or two went by, and I have some Italian seasoning here, and I'm just going to kind of throw that in there, and I'm going to let this go until it gets fragrant. Now, you'll be able to smell it, okay? Okay, you'll smell it. It'll go from just kind of a dull smell to a real strong, nice smell in just about maybe 30 seconds. And I'm going to turn the heat up just a tad. And then what I'm going to do is take some white wine right here. All right. Okay. Couldn't get that cork out, but anyway, I'm going to take some white wine, and I'm going to, it's probably half a cup. And what I'm going to do is let that simmer until it reduces, till it evaporates by half. So right now we have that much liquid in there. And then in a few minutes, when it's about half that amount of liquid, I'll be back. Hey Steve, it's been a couple minutes and we're at medium-high, thereabouts. Every oven or stove is going to be different, but we're not looking for a total rolling boil. We're just looking for a nice little simmer. So I'd say we've reduced that liquid by half. And then now I'm going to throw in the chicken stock. Okay? You can use any kind of chicken stock, preferably the sodium-free or low sodium, but I don't have that. So I just got this right here. So I added maybe a quarter of this box. I buy a bunch of these. So I probably used maybe that much of it, you know. Hard to say for sure, but enough to make a sauce. So I'm gonna let this get bubbly hot and maybe reduce that a little bit. And then I might even add a little bit more, okay? But when this gets hot, I'll be back. This liquid is bubbling, so in there we have the onions, garlic, the white wine, reduced white wine, and chicken stock. And then over here I have this pan with a little bit of oil heating up, ready to saute those mushrooms. I'm gonna turn the heat off on here. I'm gonna put these the chicken back in here, okay? Then I'm gonna take that juice from there and put that right in there because that's good. So you see how much liquid we got in relationship to the chicken. So it's quite a bit of liquid, but yet the chicken is still nice and kind of dry and crispy on top. Steve, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna throw this in my 350 degree oven for, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. I don't know. And that's done. Then when I'm done with sauteing the mushrooms, I'll put the mushrooms in there. Okay, Steve, so we're sauteing up the mushrooms here. This is fairly easy. So this is kind of how I do it here is I got some oil in there and I'm just going to give it a little. And I only want to saute these not until they're totally done. I want them to sweat out some of their moisture so they don't add liquid into the pan. But yet we want the mushrooms. So we basically just want to cook them until they've released a lot of their moisture. And you can see that one over there is starting, when they have that sort of browner color, you know, then, whoops, you want to kind of watch what, don't do what I did there. You want to kind of be a little more, you know, so probably might add a little bit more olive oil. You can use butter too. There we go. So probably in 2 or 3 minutes these will be done. And then when the chicken is done, I'll pour these in the very last because we don't want them to sort of melt in the dish. This is what the mushrooms should look like when they're done. And actually, if I leave them in this pan, they'll probably overcook. So what I'm going to do is just transfer them into a bowl so they don't overcook. Okay, so I can't find a bowl right now, but when I find one, but I'm going to do that off camera. And then, but while that's happening, I have my pasta water going right now. And I'm going to bring that pasta water to a boil. And I've salted that pasta water with maybe a tablespoon of salt. Okay, Steve, so the chicken has been in the oven for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And what I do is I check the temperature. What I do is I check the temperature with a thermometer, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have a thermometer. So it's not working. Here it is. So I'm at 170. Oh, wow. It's 100 and... This is done. Our target temperature is roughly 180 degrees for thighs and 165 degrees for breast meat. So, but anyway, setting that aside, the sauce is still a little bit thin, so I'm going to take some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. If you don't have that, a little bit of Kraft will do, and we'll just give that a little bit of stir. And then here is my mushrooms that I sauteed earlier, and you can see the color that they have on those. But anyway, we're not ready to eat yet. My pasta water is boiling nicely. I'm just going to let this sit with the temperature, with the thing on warm. Just keep everything just on its lowest setting. And right before I'm ready to serve, I'm going to throw that in there. And I'll make the pasta. So all that's left is to assemble it. So it's pretty easy. But you can see how much liquid we have in the pan. It's a little bit more than what you had. But it's okay. It doesn't matter. If the liquid were way short, after cooking the pasta, I would reserve some of that water afterwards, and I'll explain that later. But anyway, you get the idea. All right, Steve, this is what your dish should look like. That's with the mushrooms in there. Here's some more Parmesan cheese left over, but that's what it should look like. Oh, my pasta's over boiling. So there's the pasta water. So again, you want to save about a cup of that pasta water in case too much of this liquid went away. But too much of that liquid didn't go away this time, but there are other times that it does. So you want to save some of that water. When that water, that water, you would pour back into there, and it's awesome because it's been cooked in the pasta for a while. Got it, kid? All right, excellent. Thanks. All right, Steve, this is what your dish should look like. That's with the mushrooms in there. Here's some more Parmesan cheese left over, but that's what it should look like. Oh, my pasta's over boiling. So there's the pasta water. So again, you want to save about a cup of that pasta water in case too much of this liquid went away. But too much of that liquid didn't go away this time, but there are other times that it does. So you want to save some of that water. When that water, that water, you would pour back into there, and it's awesome because it's been cooked in the pasta for a while. Got it, kid? All right, excellent. Thanks.